What if the person you thought you escaped came back to drag you into a nightmare darker than before? This story follows Linda, a woman kidnapped by her alcoholic, violent ex-husband and imprisoned in a remote forest shack. Forced to serve him and his drunken friends, humiliated and terrified, she waits for the moment he finally collapses in a drunken stupor. But when the cabin falls silent, Linda dares to attempt the impossible, her escape through the cold, merciless night. Before we dive into this intense and gripping tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the channel for more stories. Linda once believed that escaping her toxic marriage meant closing the door on all her nightmares. But nightmares, she would soon learn, have a cruel way of following their victims. Her ex-husband, once merely a bitter drunk, now a man completely hollowed out by alcohol and rage, could not accept that she had left him. In his eyes, she still belonged to him, still had to endure his tempers, his humiliations, his twisted need for control. And on the night he found her again, the moon was thin and the forest was silent, as if the world itself had withdrawn in fear of what was about to happen. He came for her when she was returning home from a late shift at the cafe, his shadow staggering across the road before she even recognized his slurred voice. The reek of alcohol hit her first, then the familiar terror that crawled up her spine. She tried to run, but his fury made him stronger than his unsteady steps suggested. He grabbed her wrist, his fingers digging in so tightly she felt her pulse stutter beneath his grip. Her scream was swallowed by the trees as he dragged her into his truck, cursing, ranting that she had shamed him, betrayed him, ruined him. The engine roared to life, and the world outside blurred into streaks of darkness. When the truck stopped, Linda's breath froze in her chest. Before her stood a weather-beaten shack deep within the forest, a forgotten hunting cabin rotting among towering pines. It looked abandoned, but he shoved the creaking door open as if it belonged to him. Inside, the air was thick with damp earth and old smoke, a place untouched by sunlight and decency. He tied Linda's hands with the coarse rope, pushing her onto a rickety chair in the center of the room. Her heart pounded so loud she felt the whole cabin could hear it. What terrified her most wasn't the isolation or the ropes, it was the sudden roar of laughter outside as his drinking companions arrived. He had invited them to celebrate, to humiliate her, to remind her she was still trapped beneath his thumb. They barged into the cabin with bottles of cheap liquor, their footsteps stumbling, their voices sharp and mocking. The cabin became a suffocating whirlpool of cigarette smoke, alcohol fumes, and crude jokes. Her ex-husband strutted around like a king, presiding over his throne of chaos, forcing Linda to pour drinks despite her trembling hands. Whenever she hesitated or spilled a drop, he barked at her, his bloodshot eyes burning with the twisted pride of a man who believed domination was strength. His friends howled, smacking the table, urging him on. Every minute stretched like a lifetime. Linda's wrists throbbed beneath the rope, her dignity cracked under their jeers. She tried to keep her eyes lowered, her breathing steady, her voice silent. Resistance would only ignite his rage, and she had seen too much of that fire to provoke it again. Night deepened, and the forest outside remained indifferent. Inside the shack, Linda sat trapped in a nightmare she thought she had escaped forever. But beneath her terror, a fragile spark still flickered. The hope that somewhere within this darkness, a chance to flee might still come. As the night dragged on, the drunken celebration inside the cabin sank into something uglier, heavier, an exhaustion that wrapped itself around the men like wet cloth. One by one, his friends stumbled out into the cold forest air, muttering curses and half-hearted goodbyes, their boots crunching over dead leaves until the sound faded completely. Their departure left behind only the suffocating smell of spilled liquor, crushed cigarettes, and the lingering echo of cruel laughter that clung to the wooden walls like a stain. Linda remained seated on the rickety chair where he had left her, her wrists burning from the coarse rope, though he had loosened it just enough earlier to force her to refill his glass. The mockery, the demeaning commands, the gleeful humiliation. Every moment replayed in her mind like a bitter taste she couldn't spit out. She watched him now, slouching at the table, head bowed, the empty bottles around him like broken soldiers. His breath rasped in and out thick with liquor, and each exhale brought with it the stench of a man who had surrendered entirely to his vices. He lifted his head once, eyes unfocused, glassy. "Don't think you can run this time," he mumbled, pointing a wobbling finger at her. "You're mine, you hear me? Mine!" The last word slurred into a jumble before he collapsed forward, cheek pressing against the sticky wooden surface. His hand slid from the table, hanging limp at his side. For a long moment, Linda did not even dare to breathe, afraid that the smallest intake of air might rouse him into another storm of rage. The cabin had grown strangely quiet. The fire and the rusted stove had died down, leaving only a faint orange glow, like a dying heartbeat in the corner. Shadows stretched along the floorboards, licking at the walls, and Linda felt them crawling toward her feet. She looked at the man who had once vowed to love her, now nothing more than a broken figure drowning in alcohol and bitterness. The image should have stirred pity, but none came, only fear, and an ember of determination she had not allowed herself to feel in years. Her wrists ached. She twisted them slightly, testing the rope. It scraped against her skin, sharp as teeth. She gritted her teeth and stayed still when his breathing hitched, and then steadied again into heavy, drunken snores. Outside, the wind rattled the thin wooden boards of the cabin as if urging her to move, to decide, to choose between submission and survival. The room felt colder now, the silence deeper, pressing on her ears. She remembered the path they had taken, the narrow road, the turnoff into the forest, the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. She remembered the look in his eyes when he snatched her, wild, furious, convinced he had regained control. And she remembered something else too, the faint, unwavering whisper she carried inside her ever since she left him months ago. Run. Her gaze shifted to the rope around her wrists. The knots were sloppy. He had tied them drunk. She could almost feel freedom brushing against her fingertips. If she could get loose, if she could reach the door, if she could make it through the forest, then maybe, just maybe, this night would not end with her trapped forever in the darkness he made. Her heartbeat quickened. For the first time in hours, Linda let herself imagine escape and survival and a life beyond this nightmare. Linda inhaled slowly, letting the stale air of the cabin fill her lungs, steadying herself for what she knew might be her only chance. The rope chafed her skin as she twisted her wrists again, more boldly this time. She could feel the knot shifting, only a little, but enough to ignite hope like a spark catching on dry leaves. Her breath trembled. She kept her eyes fixed on his slumped body, watching for the slightest twitch, the smallest sign that he might wake. But he remained motionless, lost in the swamp of his drunken stupor. She worked the rope against the jagged edge of the wooden chair, dragging it back and forth until strands began to fray. Each movement sent a sting through her skin, but pain meant progress, and progress meant freedom. Her pulse hammered in her ears as though urging her forward, urging her faster. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, The rope loosened, and her hand slipped free. For a moment, she simply sat there, paralyzed by the surreal disbelief of it. Freedom, so fragile, so dangerous, rested in her trembling palms. The cabin around her felt suddenly enormous. Each piece of broken furniture transformed into an obstacle she must not disturb. Each shadow a threat ready to spring. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady but willing, and took her first silent step toward the door. The floor creaked. Linda froze, cold terror shooting through her chest. Her eyes snapped to him. His hand twitched. She felt the world contract into a single, fragile thread. But then, thank God, his breathing deepened again, sinking into the heavy rhythm of a man drunk beyond conscious thought. She exhaled silently and continued. Step by step, she crossed the cabin. The door felt impossibly far away. Every sound, the whisper of her clothes, the faint sigh of wind through the cracked window, felt loud enough to shatter the night. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cold metal latch. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, overwhelmed by the enormity of the moment. Then, she pushed. The door opened with a soft groan, and a wave of cold night air washed over her. Sharp, biting, alive. The forest greeted her like a dark ocean, the towering pines swaying like enormous shadows. Crickets chirped, leaves rustled. The world felt wide, dangerous, terrifying. And yet, for the first time in months, Linda sensed possibility. She stepped out into the night. The earth beneath her feet was uneven, covered in damp leaves and twisting roots. She didn't stop to think. She only ran with the raw desperation of a woman who had been on the edge of destruction for too long. Branches clawed at her arms, twigs snapped underfoot. Her breath tore through her throat like fire. But she didn't dare look back. Every instinct screamed that if she turned around, if she hesitated even once, the nightmare behind her would swallow her whole. The forest was deep, the darkness thick, but she kept moving, harder, faster, driven by a pulse of survival so fierce it seemed to light her path. Behind her, the cabin still sat in silence, unaware yet of the freedom stolen from it. And ahead of her, somewhere through the endless trees, was the promise of safety, of morning light, of a life she refused to surrender. Linda didn't know where she was going. She only knew one thing. She would never go back.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh mình Tự Nhiên Đa Review. Vậy là trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì nhân lúc chồng cũ của Linda hắn ta đang say xỉn và ngủ say thì Linda đã chạy trốn trong đêm để chạy thoát ra khỏi cánh rừng đó tìm về Quang. Liệu rằng cô có trốn thoát được hay không? Khi trong đêm tối như thế cô không hề biết đường đi. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.